It's funny you lead with big voice. I was known for this ever since I was a child. A fun fact about me is I was the kid you could hear before you saw walking into the cafeteria, so I probably don't need to keep the mic super close today. That being said, it is, you just had your coffee break, you're either just filled with energy or you need a little energy filler. So I am bringing in my teacher roots. I used to be a teacher. I want to do a little bit of audience interaction before I step in to talk more about what we do. So tell me, I'm curious if we're a doomsday room or a room of optimism. How optimistic do you feel about the future of the European gaming industry? Give me a little raise of hands if you're feeling pretty optimistic. And maybe raise a brave hand if you're feeling a little skeptical. And maybe put them both up if you're like, I'm a mix of both. That's what I suspected. I'm curious, for those of you who feel you have as loud of a voice as I have, what barriers do you feel like you faced when maybe trying to grow, start, or scale your gaming company? I imagine we have, let's do a quick raise hand. Who here works for a gaming company? Good number of people. Who here doesn't? I don't. So, okay, we're a good 50-50. Maybe a quick raise of hands. Is finding funding one of the challenges you faced? Yeah, I thought so. So hi, I'm Susannah, and I'm here to talk a bit about funding. I am the Business Development Manager for EIT Culture and Creativity for our Northwest region. We cover all over Europe, so I get the lovely pleasure of working with the Benelux, plus UK and Ireland, and the north of France. So if you're here from Paris, I work with you. If you're here from Nice, I do not. My quick game plan for today is I wanted to go a little bit into maybe, we're all about resiliency at EIT Culture and Creativity. How do we think about that in regard to the gaming sector? Tell you a bit more about who the heck we are at EIT Culture and Creativity. And probably the most important thing, what do we offer folks like you? And if we have time, maybe time for questions. So, doing a little bit around resiliency in the sector, I wanted to flag some things we had been reporting about in the last year. In part, this is coming from a report from the European Audiovisual Observatory that came out last year. Maybe some of you are familiar with it. But it raises a lot of questions about the future of the industry. So a cool thing about Europe, right, is there are over 5,000 active studios. So arguably, Europe's a leader in game creation. But it tends to lack ownership over the rest of the pipeline. How many of you are maybe based here, but you're using tools, you're using platforms that are not necessarily based in Europe? How does that help your own autonomy as a game-making company? So it's great. In theory, we're a powerhouse creatively here in Europe. But to scale to compete, it means you have to have a lot more control over your own pipeline. Games is huge. Games, despite how it may feel with studios closing, studios being acquisitioned and such, it is a $187 billion industry globally. Europe, though, is coming in at about $20 billion and needs to double in the next few years to stay competitive. So that's in part what we're curious and trying to help with at EIT Culture and Creativity, is what does it mean to help double this industry rather than letting it shrink? So for us, this means trying to address funding gaps, trying to say, we get it. Getting this early stage capital, it's limited. It can be uneven across Europe to try to find access to developing your game, to trying to grow your studio. At the same time, it also means you might not even have full control over your own distribution of your game, access to data, the things you might want to use to justify why you should be invested in. And so we want to try to help address this innovation potential. So that's us. We're EIT Culture and Creativity. We're all about innovation. Anyone here ever heard of EIT before walking in this room? God bless you. A few of you. So EIT itself, the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, we're not new. We've been around since about 2010. And in some ways, we've been kind of the vehicle to help address the project funding problem. Have any of you heard of Horizon Europe? A few, yeah? Big research funding, but you have this problem often. What happens is you get the project money, you do your great project, you near the end of the project and you go, well, how do I keep going? Do I find more project funding? Do I put it on the shelf and try something new? What happens next? So EIT came around to say, okay, let's address this. How do we help these ideas with big potential in Europe continue to grow and start to become less reliant on public funding and find their ways to stand on their own 2 feet as their own entities? So their first focus was on topics like health, digitization, urban mobility, et cetera, and we are the newest focus, culture and creativity. We really just came about, we've been kind of a long time coming, but officially our grant agreement came about end of December 2024. So we're here to be kind of this private-public partnership to help accelerate innovation, reduce time to market, and come to transformative solutions. Specifically for the cultural and creative sector, a lot of buzzwords coming at you. We're around creating and maintaining jobs. A lot of what we fund is helping, let's say, organizations within the creative sector either maintain their size or be able to grow and scale if that's what you're seeking to do. It's about increasing resiliency, and so resiliency we define as both as companies, how can you be more resilient in times of change? How can the work you do help lead to more social cohesion? How can you weather and in fact thrive around our digital and green transitions we're trying to embrace here in Europe? So in light of that, it's also helping to accelerate, let's say, more responsible economic growth. At least through 2027, we focus on 5 areas: fashion, cultural heritage, architecture, we've broadly lumped together audiovisual media, so that also includes music, it also includes visual media. But for most of you here, you're probably interested in gaming as one of our sectors. We cover all over Europe. What's interesting too is that also includes, let's say, the EU associated countries as well. So for a lot of our funding schemes, if say you work with partners who are considered an affiliated country, Korea is an example of one, they can also apply for funding with you. But for the most part, most of what we do focuses on these regions. Like I said, I'm here from the yellow region, but we cover all over. And a fun part about working in and with EIT Culture and Creativity is we can help kind of unlock this entire beautiful rainbow map. But we are a team that's growing. I thought I'd show you, we are a group of human beings behind here. We've actually added about 10 more employees since then, but we've really gone from a team of 10 to a team of almost 60 in the last 5 months. So it's been a funny time as an organization, just sort of hitting the ground rolling and trying to see how we can start growth. So one thing you'll notice if you Google us right now is we're sort of in our starting phase. We just did our first calls, our first rounds of partnerships, which means in about a year you'll start to really see how all of our programs worked out. It's also a fun time to get involved now if you like starting from the ground up. But what does it mean to be involved with us? So one of our jobs is partnership. We have a community. That's kind of the main thing that we do, is this ecosystem of business partners, public sector partners, education partners, looking for long-term collaboration. We currently have about 60 core partners, and we find that having this community of involvement that ranges from kind of not necessarily paid, just in it for the ride, all the way to core partners helping us shape our own mission and direction we go, is incredibly important. So just to kind of give you a flavor, this is outdated. I should update it, but it covers everything from nonprofits to city governments to familiar names like Erasmus University to institutions, for example, like Creative UK that represent many large parts of the creative sector. And that's great. You're like, okay, but how do I get involved with you now? Well, the first thing you can all do is join our digital hub. So we have a digital community where you can connect with people all over. It's where we post a lot of our events, where we share a lot about our funding, where you can collaborate and meet other like-minded folks like you interested in things like gaming. We're really trying to grow this sense of like a European innovative community. Fun thing I like here too, job board. So also, anyone looking for their next career move, we have a pretty active job board as well. We're trying to encourage people to use and to share opportunities on. More regionally, a lot of the work I do, if you become our partner, it tends to focus a lot on how can we help you navigate European programs. We have things like strategic topic groups. For example, we have one around gaming where we're trying to set an agenda around what is the future of the gaming sector in Europe? How should we shape that? That can mean meeting with policymakers. It can also mean for entrepreneurs in the room, things like access to demo days, innovation forums to really show off what you're doing. We are, An organization with a lot of ways to engage, and a lot of my job is helping you figure out what is the most valuable way for you to engage with us. So if you care about numbers, just to say, any of you can be a partner today. We have a free membership. So I'd really encourage you, if you're looking to connect more across Europe around innovation, you can sign up for free. If you're interested in let's say, a more paid opportunity, talk to me later. But in essence, a lot of this has to do with how much do you want to shape policy, strategic agenda, funding opportunities around our core focus areas. But I know why you're here, or at least most of you. You're probably interested in the funding that we do. At least that's what we talked about. We give away money too. It's been fun playing a little bit of Santa Claus. I don't personally give out the money, unfortunately, but I know the people who do. And we largely focus in the funding that we do around innovation, business creation, education, and social transformation. So business creation, I think, applies to a lot of folks who might choose to come to something like INDIGO. We have a whole slew of programs from incubation to acceleration to post-acceleration, and this just basically reflects where are you in relation to your business idea. In theory, anyone in here could apply for Spark. It is the idea of you have a business idea you want to take to prototype. You don't even have to be a legal entity yet. You or up to a group of 3 could apply together and win up to a 10K prize to try to bring your idea to life. With this one, we tend to do thematic focuses. They're often related to innovation. So for example, we have one right now, a call looking for ideas around the cultural heritage sector and how we can use innovative technologies like AR, VR, and gaming to drive innovation there. Our programs like Shape and Scale, those are more aimed at established entities. And what's cool here is if you are a top performing project or a selected project, you would have the ability to become a partner with us. We do demo days where you can pitch to our investor network. And also, as you become an entity, we ideally want to become a partner with you. Part of our own financial sustainability as an organization is we try to invest in the startups and scale-ups who work with us. So for us, it's not just, we as EIT also don't want to only rely on public funding, but also to help you, let's say, take a less risky move into growing. We say, let's take the chance to invest in your great idea, and if it's a success, we get a little bit of that equity too. It's not a requirement for doing our programs, but it is an aspect of how we try to show we want to be your partner, walking with you, not just giving you money and saying, good luck. So I would encourage you, if you are an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur aspiring or someone trying to grow your company, look into these programs. They all have open application right now. Due July 11th. And we focus a lot on mentorship and really helping you to grow to that next step in your business. So in short, I'm not going to do too much text, but Spark, aimed at if you don't have a company yet. Shape, that's when you've been established for like about 2 years and you're looking to grow. And Scale is when, okay, you've been around at least 3 years and you're ready to be in like 2 countries or more. But if I could have you take away anything, we're not funding your project. We're not an entity who says, I'm going to fund your game. But we are trying to fund you. We're trying to fund studios. We're trying to fund developers. We're trying to fund entrepreneurs. You might not feel like one, but likely you probably are. I work with a lot of artists who have had to reckon with that being an artist, being this scrappy, creative, critical thinker is a lot of what entrepreneurship also is. And so we want to help you in that business journey to help you figure out your own, let's say, steps as a leader and how to grow as a business leader or how to find the help, let's say, in your own blind spots in your growth journey. To flag as well, you might be like, okay, you talk a lot about innovation. So for what we do, we try to fund ideas and companies looking ideally to do something around innovation, but that can be defined very broadly. It could be innovating around the way you're doing business, the way you're utilizing local culture, the way you're tackling with issues like online safety, etc. Do we have any educators in the room? Yeah, a few, okay. We also give away money for education too. So just to flag that as well, for both continuing professional education, also aimed at universities, we run funding to try to tackle with issues in the field. So for example, in the gaming sector, a big one we notice is talent shortage. How can we help programs to grow and shape talent within them, learn more cross-disciplinary skills, because I can imagine for a lot of folks working in games, you're also used to games are applied not just as entertainment anymore, but often across sectors. Finally, to talk about the part I don't know a lot about, but sure love, is we have an investment network. So by that I mean, we as EIT can invest in you. We also try to bring together like-minded, value-driven investors from across Europe to help them connect with you. So we are now growing. Our goal by the end of 2025 is to have a pool of over 100 investors interested in investing in studios, projects, et cetera, that maybe you are also working on. And that's why we try to do events like demo days, innovation forums to connect those investors with our pool of interesting creatives who are looking to take that next step. And a round off, because I think questions are more fun. If you want to stay in touch, we have events coming up. I'll be at, if any of you are from abroad or maybe going to be abroad, we'll be at South by Southwest London next week on Tuesday. As I mentioned, we are currently doing money around our incubation and acceleration programs. They have the due date of July 11th. If you go on our website, we also have webinars going into way more detail than what I told you now about how to know if you're eligible. But that's enough talking at you. How about I talk with you? Does anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns? Do you need a mic? We have a mic, thank you.
Yeah, is it working? Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm asking my question as a project coordinator of a Horizon Europe funded project,
Sure.
Strategies on Sustainability and Gaming. We see the development in Europe of the Omnibus project breaking down all the regulations about sustainability. Well, you talk about sustainable growth. If the European game industry has to double, that will have a huge sustainability impact. How can you bring those two aspects in line with each other? Growth and sustainability, because the gaming industry has a huge impact. The worldwide impact is as big as the whole of the Netherlands already. So I cannot quite understand your concept of sustainable growth.
Ooh, it's a good question. To be honest, that's actually one of our criteria when we grade projects, is we look at your own sustainability practices and try to look for companies taking on more sustainable ways of working. That could mean in a more green way. We also take a broader approach to defining sustainability. But in the case of what I think you're discussing, you're focusing more on environmental sustainability. Yes, yeah. So that's a criteria ideally around innovation and frankly what we want to fund more around. How do we square this circle of we have to care about our carbon footprint? There's no denial of that. And so we in part are also looking for startups addressing this very issue of what does it mean in our green transition to continue to fund, let's say, creative ventures that can stand on their own 2 feet but not necessarily pollute at the same time. So short answer to that is it is a criteria we're looking into. It's something that would help you get funded more favorably, frankly, if you can address that more obviously in the kind of company setup you're doing. And something I think we should consider, I know we have a whole group focusing on the creative sector and the green transition. I think that's going to shape some of our future funding calls even more explicitly. I hope that helps. A little answer to say it's important. And thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, thank you. The way I see it, this is kind of a lot more about partnership, right? Like really helping other, well, game studios in this case really foster growth, make sure they can manage long term. There's also programs from the European Union and stuff like about subsidizing projects, right? Art, game projects that have societal value.
Yes.
Is this kind of like a more evolution of that same process, or it's like completely separate things where they can both be used together?
I would say they're like partners with each other. So for example, like Creative Europe is one that comes to mind that you're describing right now. I think games in particular is an interesting industry where sometimes you're classified as culture, sometimes you're classified as entertainment, sometimes it's like, what are you classified as? We're focused on innovation. So often a lot of these, let's say a grant like Creative Europe, a grant like Horizon Europe, tends to be very research-driven or very practice-driven to start to incubate an idea. And we tend to be the second phase when it comes to these funding schemes. The one who jumps in, a lot of our innovation calls are framed as, okay, great, you've reached a certain level of readiness in your prototype. How can we keep you growing? So I think that tends to be what happens, and whether that was that you were funding, I don't know, development of a certain like game development concept. Sometimes that might be something, yeah. So short version is we're not competing, but it tends to be, I think the cultural grants are more about incubating the ideas and we're more about growing the ideas.
Yeah, I can imagine these as a starting point, and then basically from there, this is the partnership that can foster that new growth from there.
Yes.
Like hand in hand. All right.
Thank you for being more succinct than I.
Thank you.
I saw a hand waving in the back. Okay.
All right, so you have 5 areas of interest, right?
Yeah.
Like fashion, culture, games. You have incubation services, acceleration. Do you have like one program for all 5, or do you have tailor-made programs for all these different 5 areas?
Yes, and it.
Yes, and.
A lot of our programs target all at once. So for example, the acceleration one, anyone from any of those sectors. And to be honest, I list them in silos, but what I recognize is so often people are kind of existing between them, right? And in fact, we find that super interesting, is if you, I can imagine if you're, say, playing around with artificial intelligence as a service, you probably have applications across many of these silos. So it's good if you can kind of define where you're using it. In some cases, we will narrow to specific silos, like our incubator one is narrowed to cultural heritage and architecture for the specific round. But I think that's good to know that for the most part, we cover all of them in our grants, and we like people who live in that in-between. It depends. Our grants aren't necessarily a program. Our grants would be, here's the money. There's some expectations of reporting that you need to do. Our prizes are a mentorship program. So there's an expectation to go through this mentorship as an entrepreneur, and then if you complete it at the end, there's a couple of, again, reporting criteria, and then you're eligible to compete for the prize money. Yeah, okay. I'm getting the signal we're near end of time.
Thank you. I think our time is up, Susannah. I would like to thank you for a great talk. So, applause for Susannah. You'll be here all day, right? You're still hanging around?
Yeah, I'll still be around.
Okay, so if you have any question, you want to talk to her, just grab her and talk with her about all this stuff. So, thank you again.
Thank you.